So there are opportunities, but also risks with AI concerning critical thinking. And I think these risks can best be summed up by looking again at that essay I asked ChatGPT to write. As you remember from the recording where I gave examples of AI technologies, I wanted it to write a presentation on the Swiss chemist Rudolf Otto Gumbrecht, citing his most important works and accomplishments. He wrote a rather well-written text, but it contained a glaring issue, a really big problem. There is no Swiss chemist named Rudolf Otto Gumbrecht. ChatGPT is a tool that generates text from the material it is fed. From that material, it generates a text that corresponds to what one would imagine a famous Swiss chemist named Rudolf Otto Gumbrecht would have done. But it does not make any judgments as to whether that person existed or not. It leaves that judgment to you, the user. Another thing that ChatGPT is specifically bad at is giving references. Some classics it has knowledge of. Thus, if you wanted to do a book review of a classic within your field, it probably can do it. But just as it makes up a presentation of a fictional chemist, it makes up references that look correct, but that do not really exist. Both of these limitations demonstrate why there is a need for critical thinking in relation to newer AI technology. Indeed, there is no substitute yet for the critical gaze of a critical thinker. However, I wanted to emphasize the yet part because the technology is still evolving and will look very different in the future. We only have access to the beta, the baby version of ChatGPT, but it will get better. As I said, we are only at the beginning of the sigmoid curve, and also there are already better alternatives to ChatGPT. Big brother Microsoft, which was an early investor in the AI technology OpenAI, on which ChatGPT is based, has integrated its AI into the Bing search engine. By the way, Google will also be coming out with their AI later this year called Bard, so I imagine that we'll see a lot of people start using AI pretty soon. Well, nevertheless, sticking with Bing, right now you can only access its AI by asking for an invite from Microsoft, so it's not available to everyone. But I have an invite and have been using it for a week now, and it's so much better than ChatGPT. Accurately, it identifies that there is no one called Rudolf Otto Gumbrecht, which is already an improvement. But if I ask it to write a presentation on the chemist Henry Cavendish, and this is a chemist that actually has existed, and ask it also to cite his most important books and accomplishments, it will present him. I would also like you to note that it gives references where it got the information from, which is an improvement from ChatGPT. Also, as you will see in a while, I can ask it to write more about him, in this case, his personal life. This is certainly a great improvement from ChatGPT. And I'm sure that as soon as Bing starts to releasing this to the general public, it will be used immensely by students and by researchers. At the same time, it is not yet perfected. Even the more advanced Bing can respond incorrectly. I asked it, for instance, to make a presentation about me, and it was able to summarize my research quite well. At the same time, it claimed that I was doing a research project that it actually sounded quite interesting, but I wasn't even doing or planning on doing that project. So we must therefore take a critical approach to the knowledge that this technology generates, and not just accept what it gives us. Just like any other source we use, we as academics are expected to critically examine our sources. In concrete terms, this means that we check the sources generated by an AI and confirm that they are reasonable. We must remember that an AI is only a tool. we must still be the ones using the tool and subjecting it to the same critical scrutiny as everything else. And as I've said, this is true for academics, but I believe this is true for the general public and other teachers as well. Also, although an AI can provide sources, we generally don't know how it arrived at the results it provided. Why were these sources the best? Could it have chosen other sources and gotten another result, perhaps a better result? The problem is that AI technology is so advanced that no one really knows, not even its programmers, how it arrived at its answers. What it does is uses information that it is given and then learns from and processes it. But how it arrives at its answers from that process, no one is really sure. That means we should be careful when using the answer it gives, and it is hard to evaluate whether it has produced using sound reasoning. Related to this is that we do not always know what assumptions it is basing its answers on. A fundamental aspect of critical thinking is that it can make visible the assumptions that govern our thinking and practices. But this is not always easy to do with an AI. What some researchers have found is that it tends to make the white Western experience the norm. Indeed, an AI like ChatGPT can only formulate text from the data it is given. If that data privileges the white Western experience, it will do so too. This risks in reinforcing stereotypes and marginalizing certain concerns in public life in order to reinforce a white Western utopia instead. It is therefore important that students are aware of these problems and examine the results generated by AI in a norm-critical way in order to avoid reinforcing certain privileged attitudes and positions that might be destructive. In the last video, I will be summing up this lecture. See you then.